If someone's never read any of your books before, who do you think would enjoy them?
If you like sort of classic science fiction, if you like dystopians and ancient cities that are actually our cities that have crumbled into dust, and if you like walking tanks, sort of alternate history of World War I, airships, if you like that sort of stuff, then you'll like my books.
Why do you think that the dystopian genre is so popular today?
If you look at what high school is, it has both of the aspects of dystopia. There's two kinds of dystopia. There's like too much control and too little control. There's like Mad Max and there's 1984. And high school is, on the one hand, they can regulate your, how you get your hair cut and how you rise and fall at the sitting of a bell. They ring a bell and you go to the next class. So there's some that sort of too much control. But at the same time, when you're in high school, there's sort of that bad driving, bad haircuts, warring tribes, sort of Mad Max vibe when you leave the school halls. So it's a sort of weird combination of the surveillance state and chaos. So I think teenagers just relate to that.
What do you think is something that you wish you knew in high school?
That high school ends and that just to have fun. Like, don't take it too seriously. That's the main thing. Like the idea that this is your life. It's not. It's just a stage of your life. It's just a thing that happens. It's just a bunch of people doing a bunch of things that don't make sense to you yet, which is fine because you'll figure it out later.
Is writing what you always wanted to do, even back then, or is it something that you figured out later?
I come from a big family in Texas with, my dad had 4 siblings. Whenever I would go back to, Thanksgiving or Christmas, whatever, big, huge crowd of Westerfelds would be in my grandma's house. And there was always lots of chaos and sugar rushing 5-year-olds up to 80-year-olds. But the one thing that would bring everybody together is when someone told a story. Like some of my older relatives were just terrific storytellers, and if they would start talking about the old days, and a couple of kids would start listening to them, and then a few more, and you'd get all of these people brought together, some of whom were from the city, some from the country, some of whom were 5 years old, some of whom were 80 years old, but a story sort of brought them all together. So I always felt like that was kind of a really super powerful, kind of a superpower. To have, to be able to bind people together with the power of story.
And when you come up with the stories, what is the process for you usually?
For my science fiction stuff, it's the setting that comes first, because science fiction is sort of is a genre in which setting is a character. Like when you talk about a science fiction book, usually you use the word where. You say it's a planet where, it's a future where, it's a society where blah blah happens. And then you come up with the characters in kind of response to that. The last book I wrote, though, Zeros, I did it with 2 other writers, Margot Lanigan and Deborah Biancotti, and we came up with the characters first. We wanted to do 6 weird superpowers, like social superpowers. They all interact with crowds in different ways. So we came up with the superpowers and then figured out what characters would emerge out of that kind of experience growing up. And then we went from there into a story.
If you had a message to your fans that you hope that they take away from your books or from yourself, what would it be?
What it's like to be somebody else. Like you put yourself in their head, you see things from their point of view, you see, you engage someone else's story, but it almost feels like it's your story, like you become that character. And just that feeling of empathy and of becoming another human being is what I hope they get out of it.